everyone, Cash here, back with another video from Madden 15, and this is it, the final video in our Connected Franchise series with the Detroit Lions. We're going to be going through one more season, and we're going to start it out here with the re-signing players. We re-signed John Kuhn, we re-signed Eric Ebron, Martavis Bryant, very cheap, $750,000. Our kicker, former rookie Joe Rodriguez, had a very good rookie year, so we're going to bring him back, 4-year deal. John Lofton was a rookie free agent last year. We're bringing him back on a 1-year deal. Kyle Vanoy for 2 years. Trent Robinson rejected our offer. Going to try and re-sign him in free agency because I really liked him. Solid backup. We're going to try and get him back. Glover Quinn accepts his contract, and then George Baker, we offered him a minimum, and he did not take it, so he's gone. We're not going to bring him back. Morris Claiborne, I'm not even going to offer a contract. We did not really even use him last year. Rob Sims, too old. Travis Swanson wanted too much money. He would be a backup anyway, so we're just going to sign some other backup center. And then Matthew Stafford, I asked in the comments, did you want me to re-sign Matthew Stafford? A lot of you said let him walk, and we're going to do that. And actually it turns out to be a pretty good idea because once we give him what he wants, 6 for 127, we only have about $2.4 million left in cap room. So financially, not a good idea anyways because we have a lot of money stuck in other players, so we are going to let him walk. So this is our roster. We need another QB. We need another left guard. We need a wide receiver. We need a backup center. We need another cornerback. And we need a backup strong safety. So that's what we're looking at in free agency. You see Matthew Stafford there. Blake Bortles is out there as well. But both those guys want a ton of money. Jimmy Garoppolo is there. So it looks like we probably will not be signing a QB, a third QB, or even there's not even one available that would maybe replace our current QB. So what I end up offering is Sean Lee, Trenton Robinson, and Nick Mangold. I wanted to upgrade our middle linebacker position. We had Manti Te'o, but he hasn't really developed like we wanted to, so we get Lee in there. We do sign all 3 of those guys, and then we see here Matthew Stafford ends up going to the Falcons, 5 years, $124 million. So now it's on to the draft, and as I said last video, this is going to be a quick, very truncated offseason. So now on to the draft. You see the picks here. We have an early pick there at 3, and then we pick at 24 and then at 32. So we have a huge opportunity here. You take a look at the big board. We have a left outside linebacker at the top, left tackle, middle linebacker, wide receiver, strong safety, corner, quarterback. First quarterback shows up at number 7. But I'm going to tell you right now, Tate Cameron, not the best looking prospect. So I do not think we're going to be going with a QB in this first pick, as I did see someone in the comments last video suggest that we take a QB in the draft at number 3, but there's just really not anyone there, and I didn't really want to reach because I don't think there's anyone that's really going to go above and beyond Jeffrey Delgado. So we'll start the draft here. We have a middle linebacker going with the first pick to the Bills, and then number 2, the Vikings are going to take a cornerback. So very high pick for a corner. Jonathan Snow, not even the highest rated cornerback, I don't think. Actually, he was. So the 3rd best and 6th best prospects are gone. So we'll take a look at the quarterbacks. We have Cameron, Nunley, Barnyard, Stouffer, all graded in the first round. And the actual best one, as far as I can tell, is going to be, I believe it's Banyard. As you see, A, B, B. They all have very similar stats, but Ronnie Banyard has a B in deep accuracy. He's the only QB in that first round with B deep accuracy. And then you see the running stats for some of these guys. I only unlocked a couple of them. You see the one guy there has very good speed, but Banyard there at the 27th pick is the best option, I think, in the first round. So I think we'll go with somewhere else with this first pick, and then we could pick up Banyard with our second pick at 24. Hopefully he's still there. We'll find out. You see the very high wide receiver. Do we need a wide receiver, though? Because at this point, we really need best available. We do not have many available spots for starters. So in the end, Lucas Hennings, graded as the first overall pick. We're going to take him. Hopefully we strike big like we did when we got Matthew Arnold, who was a first overall grade. We'll find out at the end of the draft here. But the Bills take a wide receiver with their next pick. Left tackle goes to the Texans. The Vikings trade their pick to the Redskins, who take a D tackle. The Colts up next at 7. We'll take a left tackle, so a couple left tackles going already. The Titans going to take a D tackle, so a couple D tackles, couple left tackles, a strong safety. The first strong safety going to go to the Chargers at 9, and then a defensive end to the Dolphins. Falcons up next, taking outside linebacker. Panthers at 12, taking outside linebacker. All right, so I guess good we took our outside. Look at this run of outside linebackers. Tight end finally going to go to the Rams at 14. Patriots, of course, trade their pick away to the Seahawks for a D tackle. The first running back, Clifford Cunningham, goes to the Packers at 16. And here we go, Ronnie Barnyard goes to the Giants at 17, so he gets picked well above his projected slot. So maybe we should have taken him early, but we didn't anyway. So a tight end goes to the Browns, so we're not going to be taking a QB probably with our next pick. Halfback to the Raiders, D tackle to the Steelers. Jaguars at 21 will take a middle linebacker. Jets take a QB. So here we go with some QBs coming off the board. We're up here after this Eagles pick, and they will take a left tackle. So let's see what's available. You see early here we got a corner, tight end, QB, halfback, outside linebacker, tight end, QB. So we don't like either of those QBs. So I think what we're going to end up going with here, and really what we're going to go with this entire draft, is best available player. So we'll take a quick look at the QBs. Another West Coast guy. A guy with speed and good throwing power, but that's pretty much what we already have with our two QBs as it is. So we are going to pass on the QBs, and actually Tanyan Barker is the next best available QB, so we're going to look at him in the second round. But we're going to look at the cornerbacks here because these are the two guys that are high at the top. And Joy Dunbar looks very good, fits our scheme perfectly, so we're going to take him with our second first-round pick. Next up, the Buccaneers take a left tackle. Center goes to the Rams. That may be the first center taken. Another halfback to the Ravens. Cardinals will take a tight end. Patriots at 29, their first pick in the first round. They will take a quarterback. And then one more pick from the Chiefs before our pick. They will take a free safety. So now here we are at 32. And at this point, you see Tanyan Barker is here. Best available, not best available, but we want to take a QB, so he is the guy I see that's the best option, so we're going to take him there. Next pick, I only have two guys left that I have scouted. We need a possible D-tackle backup, so we're going to take that D-tackle there. We now move on to the third round as we're kind of flying through these picks here. Now we look, we need a backup left tackle. This guy's here, still graded as a first-round pick, so we're going to grab him, see if he turns out to be anything good. Next up, current available, a whole string of wide receivers here in this round, and we're eventually going to settle on a wide receiver. Jabril Henry fits our scheme the best, so we're going to grab him with that pick now at the fifth round, and still a ton of wide receivers, and continuing with the best available, we're going to take another wide receiver. We'll see if any of these guys hit. I mean, again, as I said, we have literally no holes in our team except for a couple positions where we need backups, but even if we can't find them here in the draft, we'll just go sign some free agents. So last pick here, Mr. Irrelevant, and we are going to take a halfback. So now we'll see at the end of the draft, has any of these guys turned out? We're looking at Hennings here, and he is a 67. So this might be our first bust draft pick. As unfortunate because we've gone all this time without having a real bad bust in the first couple rounds, but at least it happened here where we're not really affected by it as much. So you see the rest of the players, 72. The QB we took was an 82, so not bad, but he is not good enough that he's going to start. 70, 58, so we didn't really hit on any of those late round guys. We'll now move on to free agency, and we have to fill some holes here. A backup left guard there, and then Darqueze Dennard is a free agency. He lasted through free agency. I looked at him when the free agency started. He had like a dozen offers, does not end up signing anywhere, so we're going to grab him for some cornerback depth. And now you take a look at our team here. And a lot of the same familiar names. We added some guys here. None of the wide receivers we took are going to stick. Those guys will probably get cut. And actually, as we go through this preseason, I think we only end up keeping obviously our first pick, the outside linebacker, Hennings, and then we pick we keep the corner that we drafted, Dunbar, and then I believe the left tackle prospect we will hold on to. Otherwise, everyone else ends up getting cut. So Damon Hall, the D-tackle, is another guy that we keep. I think everyone else, including that left tackle that we took, ends up getting cut because, as you see from our draft, not that great of players that we took, but our team already is pretty freaking solid. I think our offensive and defensive ratings are both 95 for our overall team rating, so we have built this team into an absolute juggernaut. Dennard, who we took, is actually probably going to step in and be our new third cornerback. He's going to replace Ali Marsh for this last season, which I kind of thought, since we're simulating these games, they're probably going to get some better players in there a little bit, some of those positions to try and help win some games here. But as we begin the preseason, we win our first game. Jeffrey Delgado plays very well, 144 and 2 touchdowns. Devler Dotson, 2 touchdowns. Barker does not play because the simulation only plays 2 QBs, not 3, so we'll have to get him in there in the next couple games. Denard Robinson runs for 100 yards. Odell Beckham gets 3 TD catches. Our next game is going to be a loss to the Redskins. And taking a look at these numbers, Delgado, a nice game. Barker, his first game, 123, 1 touchdown, but an interception. So it looks like through the first 2 games, Delgado looking very good. Keisha Martin goes 7 for 114. Third game is against the Bears, and we win this one. So 2-1 so far on the preseason. Delgado, first pick of the year. Barker goes 87 yards, but no touchdowns, no interceptions. And you see the rest of the numbers there. So now on to week 4, and we have to cut some people. And as I said, we cut all the bad draft picks, so we need to make 2 more cuts, and these are the big ones. We're going to end up cutting Chess Goodwin. He ends up being the odd man out after we signed Sean Lee, so he will be cut. He was a guy we drafted, has played sparingly in a couple years, but never really made much of an impact. Didn't really progress well. And then our last cut is going to be Addison Birch. Him and Dunbar, very comparable, but Dunbar has 3 years on him, so we're going to cut him, even though we're not going to play more than 1 year. Just kind of felt that Birch was the one to cut. So we lose our final game against the Packers. Can't show you the stats from that one since it advanced us to the regular season. But take a look at the regular season now. We open against the 49ers. Then it's the Bills. On the road at Seattle. That's going to be a tough game. Packers at Dolphins. Bears at Eagles. Bye week in Week 8. We'll stop there to see how the season's going. Then it's at home against the Cardinals and Vikings. Then on the road to the Rams. Home against the Patriots. And then we go on a string of road games to end the season. Jets, Packers, Vikings on the road, Saints at home, and then we end it on the road against the Bears. So we'll see how it turns out. And actually before, one more thing. The San Diego Chargers moved to Memphis and became the Steamers. Very odd, very weird. I know in last year's game there was a lot of moving pieces when they introduced in Madden 25 the ability to relocate, which we did with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Had not noticed it this year until this point, so interesting that the Chargers leave. But now we have made it to the regular season. It's time to advance, so in a snap, we're going to take it to Week 8. We'll see where we're at. Has the team been successful while simulating? Yes, they have. We're 7-0 on the season. We are in first place by a lot. The Cowboys are undefeated as well. Redskins, Buccaneers right behind us. Jaguars leading the way in the AFC 6-0. They have a 2-game cushion on everyone. Injuries, Ziggy Ansah out 4 weeks. Mangold, backup center, out 4 weeks. Denard, the signee at corner, is out 1 week. So looks like we've had some injuries, but obviously hasn't affected us. Look at this. Delgado, 1,700 yards, 14 TDs, 6 interceptions. He's been playing very well. The 100.5 QB rating. Moving on to rushing. Matthew Arnold, 105 for 645. Looks like he's been hurt at some point because Denard has 81 for 277. 11 touchdowns for Denard Robinson. What a first half of the season for him. And then we move on to receiving. And here, this one, a little bit of a surprise. Davian Sherrod leading the way, 44 for 478. Calvin right behind him with 463. Keyshawn, 30 for 288. Everyone looks like they've spread the ball around there a little bit. And then on defense, very different, obviously, from when we actually play. We only have 9 total sacks, Fairley with 4. Browning, a backup defensive end, has 3 of them. And Ndamukong Suh with 2. So that is very surprising to see. Obviously, very different when you simulate. And then interceptions, we have a lot of those. Brandon Carr with 6, Miles with 3, Lee and Denard with 2, and then a bunch of guys with 1. So the secondary playing very well. But now we're going to advance. We're going to go to Week 17, the last week of the season. We'll see if we're still undefeated. And we are not. We're 13-2, but we have clinched the division, and it looks like if we can win in Week 17, we will clinch the first seed. The Saints right there behind us. Jacksonville 14-1, Chiefs and Broncos at 11-4. And we'll take a look at the injuries. Browning out 2 weeks, Miles out 3, Cummings, our starting left guard, out 5, and then Mangold hurt again for 4 weeks. So he's apparently played very little in this season. He was the backup center, but you see there some injuries to deal with. Hopefully those guys will be back for the playoffs, but now we will advance. Did we finish with a win and get that first seed? As you see the scores here, some poundings that we put on some teams, some close games as well, though. And look at there, we lost in Week 14 to the Packers, we beat the Vikings, then we lost to the Saints, and we lost in Week 17, so a very low point to end the season there. So it looks like, I think we did still clinch a first-round bye, but we will not have that first seed. The Saints, who beat us in 16, that was a very big game there because that would have given us that first seed. But we're going to finish second. Saints are first. Cowboys, Buccaneers, Eagles, and Cardinals in the NFC. And then the AFC, it's Jaguars, 15-1 for the Jaguars. Wow. Broncos, Chiefs, Jets, Steelers, and Patriots. So that is your playoffs. Jeffrey Delgado, look at that second half. He had 1,700 yards at Week 8. He ends with 4,200 yards, 35 touchdowns, but 17 interceptions. That means he had 11 interceptions in the second half, so a poor second half for him. Maybe that's why we lost 3 games. Matthew Arnold just gets 1,000 yards, only 4 touchdowns. Denard Robinson, 15 TDs, 800 yards. Looks like Arnold was hurt again in the second half of the season. And then in the receiving, Calvin Johnson, 108 for 1,300 yards and 16 TDs. Monster year for him. Sherrod goes for 1,000 yards. That's his first 1,000-yard season. Keyshawn still with 727 yards. Ebron with 500. And then you see the rest of the guys there. On defense, Nick Fairley, 15 tackles for loss. Suh with 12 sacks. Fairley ends up with 7. Browning gets 4 and Suh with 3. And then the interceptions, Carr ends up with 8. Miles 5. Lee, Denard, and Slay with 3. So now, and look at this. Unbelievable. Jeffrey Delgado, his first year as a starter, and he wins the MVP award. Unbelievable. Interesting enough, though, he wins the MVP. Barkley gets Offensive Player of the Year, and Griffin wins Best QB. So all 3 guys share the 3 awards. Calvin Johnson wins Best Wide Receiver. We did not win any other awards besides that. So now look at the wildcard games. It's Patriots at Jets, Eagles at Cowboys, Broncos at Steelers, Buccaneers at Cardinals. The Patriots beat the Jets, the Eagles beat the Cowboys, Pittsburgh beats Denver, and Arizona beats Tampa Bay. So it's going to be Patriots at Jaguars, Eagles at Saints, Steelers at Chiefs, and we get the Cardinals. So we'll see how it goes, and we do get the win. Jacksonville beats the Patriots. Wow, what a playoff game that is. Eagles beat the Saints, Pittsburgh beats the Chiefs, and then we won 34-16. So it's Steelers at Jaguars in the AFC, Eagles at Lions in the NFC. How cool would it be if we played the Jaguars in the Super Bowl? But let's see, we got to win this game first, and we do. Wow, 44-7 the score. So it's going to be Lions at Steelers in the Super Bowl, as this is going to be quite the game. We're looking for another Super Bowl ring. Could it be? Could we become a dynasty, winning 3 Super Bowls in a row? And yes, we can. We take it 31-28. What a game that must have been. As you take a look, and look at this. Actually, the Steelers look to have the stat edge there as Dallas Hankins, their QB, 307 for 3 touchdowns. Delgado, 232 and 2 touchdowns. Arnold goes for 66. Theo Riddick, their starting running back, goes for 53. Denard Robinson, all 3 of those running backs get touchdowns. T.Y. Hilton, 8 for 135. I don't really see any standouts for us in this one, so I'm not sure what led us to winning this game. Obviously, the defense stepped up big, apparently. Only 1 sack from Sue, no interceptions, but regardless, we got the win, so we have won another Super Bowl. So look at that. Even when we don't play the games, we still won, which I think speaks to how well we built this team, that even when we simulate the games, we still do well. They still win. And now we see the final numbers for Cash Larson. 3 Super Bowl victories, 4 NFC championships, and 1 Coach of the Year award. That's going to get us right down there with Gus Bradley, Marvin Lewis, Ken Wisenhunt. Not bad company, but obviously I would hope we would have moved higher up than that with 3 Super Bowl wins. But nonetheless, that is where we end, and that is the official end of this series. I am so happy to see that they still did well. That really does speak to how well we built this team. This Lions team had a lot of talent as it was to begin the series. We had to make some changes, and if you saw the last episode, if you didn't, go back and watch it, because I showed and compared where the roster started to where it ended. We still had a lot of turnover. We added a lot of players. We had some very good drafts, some draft picks that came in and were a huge part of our winning seasons, but we end up 3 consecutive Super Bowl victories, the simulated season, one of our better seasons. But that brings us to the end of our Madden 15 Connected franchise. If you're watching this, Madden 16 just came out yesterday, so I'm in the process of picking what team I'm going to be using for Madden 16, but I will have at least 1 video out from Madden just to kind of give my initial thoughts on the new game. Most likely, actually, might be dropping that later today. If you're watching this today on Wednesday, I might be dropping it later tonight. Otherwise, at some point this week, I'll have a video out there, and then later on, probably this weekend or early next weekend, I will have a video out announcing what my next team will be in our new franchise in Madden 16. So if you enjoyed this series, I do appreciate you watching it. Go ahead and give this video a like, but I thank you all for watching. If you've watched any of these videos, whether it's this one, you've watched all of them, watched some of them, doesn't matter. I appreciate the support. Thank you so very much, and I cannot wait to get into the next franchise in Madden 16. So again, if you enjoyed it, please go ahead and give it a like. I really appreciate it, and subscribe to see any future videos that I make. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.